I'm amped up today. I'm ready to go. If I'm a little loud, forgive me, but it's a huge day. Huge guest on. Listen, grab that snack, whatever it is, some popcorn, some Cheetos. I don't care. Grab it, grab that drink, but make sure you grab that umbrella because it's raining threes in here today. Like I said, it's a big day today. I am through the roof, overjoyed. I'm going to be stuttering. I'm going to be, I don't even know, slurring words and looking crazy and sounding crazy, but I am so excited for this one today. So, from developing and coaching pros, Central Michigan and Iowa, I'm talking Crystal Bradford, talking Lucy Olson, talking Megan Gustafson, and yes, Caitlin Clark, right? To now being the newest head coach at Florida Gulf Coast is only the third in program history. I'm joined by the Raina Harmon.
Hey, where my shooters at?
Oh man, Raina, I'm overjoyed. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here, right? Before we get to all that, we're gonna dive into everything. Before we get to the woman that we all know today, right? I definitely want to dive into some things because I think, people probably just think you were at Iowa, landed in back-to-back national championships.
Yeah.
But it's definitely been a long time coming. We know it definitely didn't happen that way.
Mm-hmm.
Take us back first and foremost. I want to know your days at CMU. What was Raina, the basketball player, like?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me, EJ. Like I tell you all the time, right? We're friends in real life. And so I'm so proud of you. I'm happy to be on your podcast. So thank you. We're going to have some fun today. But me.
Friends in real life, that part.
In real life. Me as a basketball player, I would say energetic. I had a great motor. So before I got to CMU in college, I tore my ACL. And so I was like super athletic, could grab the rim and everything in high school. Tore my ACL my 11th grade year, had reconstructive surgery, and then I became a shooter, right? An undersized four for the most part. Being from the Motor City, I'm from Detroit, right? Grew up in the era of bad boys. So I became a person that set very hard screens, would go get a rebound, and if I was open, I would shoot it. But I would tell you this, I was never the best player on any team that I've played on. But I've always believed in the power of team. And so whatever my teammates needed me to do, I always did it.
Sometimes that heart and that hustle is really all you need to kind of elevate and take your game to the next level. People think all the time, girls coming up think, I have to average 25 points a game. Otherwise I'm not going to be any good, but it's so much more than just scoring. If you have that motivation, that grit, that can take you really far.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and even, thinking about like my last couple years at CMU, I barely played at all, but I'm still friends with a lot of my former teammates because I just motivated them in practice, right? If I needed to be on scout team and get them better, then I did whatever needed to be done. But even, if I was playing, I was never going to be the player that was averaging more than 20 points a game, or probably more than 12 rebounds a game. But again, it's some of those little things, right? Getting an offensive rebound to get an extra possession, or get a deflection to be able to disrupt, the other team's offense. I think those things are super important. And now being on the other side of it, also things that I look for.
Yeah, they're just as important. They're crucial. You can really change the whole trajectory of a game that way.
Yeah.
So, all right, Raina the player, the career's over for the player, right? A lot of people don't know about, may not know this about you, but your coaching career really started as a middle school boys assistant, right? And I think you did some coaching youth, girls after that.
Yeah.
And I think that's just fascinating, right? What did you take away from that experience?
Yeah. And so I'll give, just a little backstory of how it came to be, right? I mean, when I was leaving college, I got my degree in sports studies, and I knew I wasn't going to play in the W, but I was unsure what it is that I wanted to do. And so did a assistantship with the Detroit Shock, the WNBA team in Detroit at the time, and was like, okay, I don't necessarily want to work in marketing. I took a job out in Green Bay, Wisconsin, working for a company, North American Youth Sports. And while I was there, I was like, okay, this isn't it either. So I ended up going back home and trying to figure out what it was I wanted to do. And I became a long-term substitute teacher and I had gym and health. And I really just related to the kids in the class, and more than anything, some of the troubled boys that were in the school. So much so that, when they would get in trouble, they would just be asked to send down to my office instead of disrupting the school or being sent home. And most of those boys played on the team. And so my friend who was the head coach at the time, he was like, yo, do you want to help me coach this 8th grade boys basketball team? And I was like, look, I played basketball for a long time, but I have no idea what I'm doing in terms of coaching, right? I know I can roll out a ball and tell them to have some fun and maybe, kind of just repeat some of the drills that I did in high school and in college, but I don't know how to move an X or an O. So let's give this thing a shot. And, as we start going down that road with the 8th grade boys basketball team, like I really took a liking. I love the basketball part of it, but I loved more what the sport of basketball allowed me to do for the young boys in that community. And that's to be able to give them a place to just have some fun and be with their second family after school, be able to travel on the weekends and win some games and find some success when maybe the home life wasn't the best for them. So to kind of create that family outside of, their families at home. And I'm still in touch with a lot of them to this day. And man, that was light years ago. And so while I was at home and my former AAU coach, I played for Michigan Crossover, and Mez Oliver, he's still the program director to this day, EYBL team, Michigan Crossover. He found out that I was back home, and he's like, hey, I heard you're coaching some boys. Do you have any, interest in giving back to the program that gave to you? And I'm like, absolutely. And so I started coaching 7th grade girls basketball team. And I know this is a long-winded to what it's taught me, but, as I started coaching the girls, I was like, okay, like I love coaching the boys and that was fun, but I feel like I can have more of an impact here because I literally have walked in the steps that they're looking to walk in. And so now I can say, like, this is what your future could look like, if you work hard enough, or here are some pitfalls you need to make sure you steer clear of. And I was with one team from 7th grade all the way until when they graduated. And as we just, kept growing, some of those coaches, would call me and start recruiting my players. And it was then that I was still looking for what I wanted to do for a career. These were all just side quests, really. And then it clicked one day. There were a lot of recruiters that were calling to ask about my players, and they looked like me, right? They were young Black women. And I was like, I think I want to be a college coach. And so at that point, I start telling everybody what it was that I desire to do. And I'm a firm believer that, like, if you put yourself out, whatever you put out into the universe will come back to you. So you better be sure you're ready for it. And so one of the things that, I really believe in, and one of the things that has taught me is that, they always say it's not what you know, but it's who you know. But I also think you take that a step further, and that's also who knows you. Right? Because I was just shooting my shot and telling all these coaches, I would love to, be considered if there's something that opens. And all of a sudden, one day I get a phone call from Kevin Borseth, who is the head coach at the University of Michigan, who essentially offered me a job to be his director of basketball operations. So, just networking with the right people, and then being able to share your dreams and goals, in the rooms that you're in, and being, doing the work and being ready for when that opportunity presents itself, you're ready to take it and run.
Yeah. And I was going to add to that. I think that's a great message and a great point you brought up about putting yourself kind of in those rooms and networking. You have to put yourself in the rooms that you feel you belong in. Mm-hmm. You can't approach situations saying, I'm not good enough for this, I shouldn't be here. Put yourselves in those rooms. And I always say, when you put yourself in that room, right, there's always a saying like, a seat at the table, right? I say, don't wait for that seat, grab some wood and build your own table, right? Build your own seat, build it all. Mm-hmm. You got to put yourself out there. I think that's so important. That's message resonates really deeply with me because, everything's a journey, right?
Right.
Right. And then out there
too, like, sometimes we walk in those rooms and we just feel so underconfident, but how do you get confident? It's at doing the reps at the things that you want to be. So put yourself in there first mentally, and then get your reps up. The more you do something, the more you feel confident with it. So then when you get to that room, you can shine just like everybody else.
Yeah, it's easy to feel sometimes like you don't belong, or easy to feel intimidated, but you got to power through that, and you got to really have the confidence to like I said, get that seat at that table and prove yourself. So
That's right.
what it's all about at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked a little bit about, that drive, right? And how you got the coaching and how the doors opened up for you. And, you're Detroit born, you're Michigan through and through. You just touched on, director of women's basketball operations in Michigan, but then you went over to CMU as an assistant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you got a taste of the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Was that kind of a full circle moment for you to get your alma mater to the big dance?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I played at CMU, I mean, no offense to anybody that was there when I was, but records and receipts are receipts, right? We were terrible, but it obviously was a place that I loved enough that I wanted to go back, and so to be able to go back, and take that team, win a championship, and then, go to the NCAA tournament, and have a really, really good showing while we were there. It was really fun. And, at that moment, just being like, wow, I never got this taste as a player, but now to be here, coaching, like, I wonder where is this going to go for me next? The ironic thing about it is as we were going through the MAC tournament, I actually had to take a leave of absence during the tournament because my stepdad passed away.
Oh, wow.
The day of his funeral was the day of the championship game. Wow. And I was just like, kind of like having a conversation with him, and he wasn't there. And I was like, I know that I'm not there to cut down the nets with my team, and you couldn't be there to see me do it, but one day you will be, right? And I mean, you fast forward and like, holy cow, did he?
You know what? Listen, let's fast forward, right? So it's 2017.
Mm-hmm.
You get to Iowa.
Yeah.
Was there any culture shock first getting on campus from, or was it like a seamless transition coming over from CMU?
No, it wasn't. And I tell this story all the time, right? I mean, I was happy at CMU. I was 2 hours from home. I had a family that, my family's also, my wife and son, they're also from Detroit. And so, I had a conversation with Sue Guevara going into my 5th year at Central Michigan. And I was like, hey, I know that you don't have 4 more years left in the tank of this, because she was kind of on the downside of her career and highly successful. And I was like, my son at the time, he was going into the 8th grade. So I was like, I don't want to necessarily move him in high school. So, I'd like to make that jump before he gets to high school, just so he can have a steady career. And so, I said, hey, my footprint is the Big Ten growing up in Detroit. If you have any conversations with, any coaches that you think our values are aligned, right? I love being a part of a team that feels like a family. I want to be pushed. I want responsibility. I also want to grow. I value my integrity. I value the truth. If you know of any coaches that are similar to that, please reach out. I'll take it from there. The next year, lo and behold, Lisa Bluter calls my phone, and I didn't know Lisa Bluter at all. I mean, obviously, when I was a director of basketball operations, we played Iowa. But I didn't have a personal relationship with her. But I mean, after talking with her for an hour, I was like, I really like her, but I don't know much about Iowa. I mean, cornfields and presidents, that's, so I went back to my wife and I was like, I'm going to take the interview because I need to, brush up on it. But Iowa, I ain't like going to Iowa, right? And so, I mean, yeah, you tell God your plans and hello. and so, I got on the plane, I went out there and I had one thought. And when I got there, I was absolutely blown away because it actually had everything that I was looking for when I spoke about my values. And so I went there thinking there's no way, I left thinking I pray to God she offers me this job. And so a funny story, there's this mural that sits right behind the secretary's desk. And as I was leaving Carver Hawkeye Arena, I happened to glance at the mural and I was like, this looks familiar. And it was when I was at Michigan, we were playing at Iowa. And it was like the stadium and the game going on. And so I took a sticky note and was like, you should hire her, and put an arrow and stuck it right like over my forehead to where I was sitting. And so once I left, their staff was like, oh my gosh, we never knew that was you in the photo. Wow. So she offered me the job. And then, to your point though, yes and no, kind of a culture shock. The one thing about my path and my trajectory is I didn't go from Detroit to Iowa City. I think that would have been a big culture shock. But, going from Detroit to Mount Pleasant, Michigan, which the demographics were like completely flipped on its head.
180.
180. I think, I had been around people that were different than me. for a while in college, and then again 5 years at Central Michigan. So I would say from a demographic standpoint, I wasn't like overly like, oh my God, there's not a lot of people that look like me. But I mean, it was a lot slower than kind of what I was used to from Detroit, right? I mean, a very much a college town. But the one thing that I, loved about it and the similarities between Mount Pleasant, Michigan and Iowa City was their love for their women's basketball teams. Right. The community feels like they are a part of that program, and the program makes sure that they invite everybody in from the community to be a part of it. And I think we saw it at the highest level in a few years, in Iowa City. So a little bit of a culture shock. But once you could get over, certain things, right, how people look and things like that, then I found myself fitting right in because our values align so much.
That little story you just said right now, I did not know that about the sticky note with the arrow. That's incredible. It kind of sounds to me like this was already written, like,
isn't it all?
God is incredible.
Yeah.
So we're gonna fast forward just a few years, right? It's November 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Someone by the name of Caitlin Clark committed.
Yeah.
How involved were you with that recruiting process, with getting her?
Yeah. Sure. So Lisa Jan Jensen, the current head coach, and Jenny Fitzgerald, who has since retired, they had began recruiting Caitlin, I believe, like in the 7th grade, right? And so they had a long head start. I think by the time I got to Iowa, I may be off a year or two, but I think she might have been going into the 10th grade. And so, Iowa also wasn't my recruiting geographic area, right? I had most things east of that. And so I would say right away, I wasn't a part of it. But when she came on campus for the first time when I was there, I think that's when we really started to develop a really good relationship. When we would text, not every week, obviously, because there were now, 4 of us actively recruiting her. But I would say, I'm not much younger than Lisa and Jan, but I would say when I got there, I was a more younger representative, so I can relate to a lot more things. And so our lingo and the way that we shared text messages and the way that we greeted each other was more not a peer, right? But I think she could grasp onto that, right? And so we developed a quick relationship, and even the places that we were vacation to, my family and her family would go to very similar places. And so if we were in the same area, we couldn't see each other because of recruiting rules, but I would shoot a text, yo, down the street, say what's up, with me waving out the window and things like that, which was pretty cool. And then have a chance. So Illinois was my recruiting base. And so if she would play a tournament over in Illinois with her high school team, I would go over there. And so, just constantly, sending texts and things like that, maybe a call here or there, but I was not her primary recruiter, but I think that we started having a really good relationship.
Yeah. I mean, and we all saw how that went with her. I mean, come on.
Yeah, for sure. I will say though, a lot of the graphics that we sent her, I was responsible for that, and we came up with some really creative things to try to get her. And it's so funny, the conversations that we had once she came into campus. She was like, "And who thought of this?" I was like, "Me." She was like, "Yeah, it was funny at the time, but don't send that out to anybody else."
Oh my God!
No, we banter. We keep each other humble. I'll say that.
Yeah, well, it's funny because a lot of people don't. Obviously wouldn't get to see the everyday being around her. And, she's actually incredibly funny. She's a whole comedian.
Yeah, for sure. Like people, they'll ask me every once in a while, like, what's she like being around? And I say, I mean, for the age that she was in, she acted like that, right? I mean, she acted like any other college student athlete, right? Most times you would hear her before you saw her, right?
As she should.
Right? Yeah. And so, I mean, funny, witty, like her teammates kept her humble. She kept them humble. But when I would tell you this, like when a teammate needed to be picked up or held accountable, she did just that,
That's called a leader.
Mm-hmm.
That's called it. It's funny because a lot of people think that, those logo threes, she kind of started that at Iowa. If anybody watched her, hey, all Iowa attack. Yeah. Logo threes. I mean, it's just what she does.
Yeah, it's what she does. And, I mean, she kind of caught fire like right at the right time, I think, as the viewership started to expand. NIL came into play. I think, all things kind of aligned at the right time to be able to see somebody that was playing a little differently than everybody else. And then all of a sudden you catch lightning in a bottle.
Fast forward 2025, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go from cornfields to palm trees.
Yeah.
What was that move to Florida like? Because
I
you're now
don't remember.
the third coach in program history at Florida Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
What
It was fast, right? I mean, like literally when people say like you hit the ground running as a head coach, I mean, there's no time to be like, let me go back and celebrate and
zero downtime.
No.
Zero.
So I was named head coach during the Final Four, right? So we were actually in Tampa when the news was announced, and I mean, it was good and bad, right? Because my colleagues could say congratulations to my face, which I love that, be able to give people flowers, but a lot of people looking for jobs this year, right? So, I mean, everybody wanted to sit down. But was trying to take information as it came while we were in Tampa, right? Trying to be like, man, like have that moment. My mom came, I surprised her, told her I was getting the job before it was announced. She lives in Tampa, so that was cool. But literally, I think I left Tampa I want to say it was let's say I left on a Sunday night, got back that night, unpacked, repacked, and then I had my press conference down here that Tuesday. And so, when I got here, I had to hire a full staff, and I had 3 players on a roster. And so I had a tall task in front of me to build a roster, and get everybody here going this summer. And then not only add names to a roster to have bodies, right? Like I understand the institution in which I'm at, right? I know what Carl Smesco has built down here. I understand the torch that was passed to Chelsea and what she was able to continue to do when she was here for a year. And so, for me, it wasn't just about adding names as quickly as possible, right? I wanted to go out and get quality players and build the type of culture that I know that we can sustain here, while trying to recruit, some of the returners that went into the transfer portal too. Also building a staff that, similarly aligned with me. So the same things that I was telling Sue Guevara when I was leaving Central Michigan is like, what I stand for, my morals and my values. And so to be able to bring in a staff that fit exactly that, and then them help, us build a roster, 13, talented as all get out, but even better people. It was a whirlwind, as we sit here at the beginning of August. I'm really proud of what we were able to build and really happy with what I've been able to see this summer.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, you have zero downtime. It's a super quick transition, right? You have just a few months to get situated, build a staff, build a team, build team chemistry, put together a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really have much time, a few months before the season, you hit the ground running. But
yeah,
it's that last part, put together a schedule, because let's talk about it. South Carolina at home, December 20th, zero smoke ducked. We're not ducking any smoke at all in year one. We're coming for it.
Yeah, again, I mean, I understand, the seat in which I sit at the location in which I do, in this university. And I mean, throughout the history of this program, they've played, some pretty significant Power 5 schools. And so I understand that, like, for me, this isn't like a rebuild. I'm not looking here to come rebuild anything, right? It's built. I'm looking to sustain what has already been built, behind me, and just continue to add on bricks on top of that layer. I mean, a rebrand, sure, but I don't consider it a rebuild. And so, to be able to get South Carolina, in my first year, and not on the road and not a neutral court, but to be able to bring them to Alico Arena, I thought was really huge. Not only for, this current team and our staff, but for the community. To be able to see, a perennial powerhouse team be able to play right here in their backyard, but also, for the alums of this program that's helped getting it to, where we are right now. I thought it was a really big game for us, a really cool challenge too.
That place is going to be rocking. I mean, I might have to touch down for that game.
Yeah, come on, I got you.
That place is going to be insane over there. I think it's so important, if you have the opportunity to schedule a game like that,
mm-hmm.
you almost can't say no to that. I mean, the opportunity for those players, the opportunity for the fans, just in general, the eyes that are going to be in that. I mean, that's going to be a sold out place. Let's be honest.
Sure. I mean, when the opportunity, it literally like landed in my lap. I got a text message. It was like, "Hey, are you interested in this?" And my eyes were like, let me turn my phone off and turn it back on and make sure it's actually the text that I have on the other side. And then as I thought about it, I'm like, what the kids say? You know what? Hell yeah. Absolutely, we're going to do it, And so, again, I'm very blessed in the opportunity to play. I mean, You see what it is, right? I mean, I've been a long supporter of Dawn Staley for a while. I've always watched her from afar. Had the opportunity to play against her a couple times the last few years, and so whenever you can play against somebody that you idolize, I mean, a whole T-shirt with your name on it. So whenever you have an opportunity, I feel like it was a great opportunity and one we couldn't pass up.
Yeah, she's incredible. I mean, I can't say enough about not only the coach that she is, but the woman she is, and
Absolutely.
her values and what she stands for. And that's where you two are so similar, because you guys don't compromise morals, values. You guys are firm in what you believe in, and I love that. You guys are one and the same in so many ways, but that first and foremost, because it's all about values and all about community with you guys, and what she built at South Carolina, that didn't happen overnight.
Absolutely. Yep.
You are well on that path, my friend.
Hey.
But wait, there's more. Stay tuned for part 2 of my exclusive one-on-one with Raina Harmon. Let's go.